This stream is sponsored by IGK TAS, telemetry analysis system powered by IGK. Good evening everyone and welcome along to TTML. We are here for F1 action. It is Season 5, round number 5 of the Championship as we take in the British Grand Prix from the Silverstone International Circuit. My name is James Head, going to be taking you through the stream as always on a Tuesday night, and sadly we haven't got Paco Suarez alongside us in the commentary box tonight. Nobody has decided to join me on the right-hand side of me in the commentary box tonight. So you have to stick with me for an hour and a half, which I'm sure is not too bad whatsoever. But, of course, a lot to delve into after the driving standards and everything that happened, of course, last week. Just to run you through what actually happened last week in terms of the podiums, as I load up the graphic on my end. And it was, of course, Isotopic who took the win last time out in Austria. Simply Superman second, Perpetuum third. There were a lot of position changes because of a penalty applied to Wedge. 15 seconds worth, I think, worth of penalties in the end applied to him, and along with 15 penalty points as well. But what did that do to the championship standings? Well, Harry Banks still leads the way, but it has condensed very, very much, and it's a wide open championship now as we come to the halfway point of the season. Harry Banks, as I say, in the lead on 75, with Tom in second on 72. He's not here tonight, with Hazara in third on 70, Isotopic in fourth on 67, and Perpetuum in fifth on 64. Simply Superman in sixth on 57, with Noisy in seventh on 52, Brick FN in eighth on 49, along with Jorg also tied for eighth on 49, with Chris rounding off the top 10 on 47. He's another driver that is not attending tonight. Running down the rest of the field, we've got Wedge in 11th on 35, Mashiro in 12th on 32, Funky Chicken in 13th on 22, Tiago in 14th on 20, Volakongan in 15th on 14, Kazizzle is in 16th on 11, he's recently joined Shazoo, has our Kazizzle, and Benny is in 17th on 10 points. Kill Well Make and Kill yet to score any points so far this season. And just to delve into those standings a little bit further, of course Harry Banks leads the championship, but it's only 3 points the gap to Tom, 5 points the gap to Hazara, so it's going to be quite fascinating to see what, of course, happens out on track tonight and whether we see some brilliant action around the home of British motorsport, of course, at Silverstone. And obviously, as well, running through the constructors' standings, it's not as close as the drivers' standings, but constructors' standings still all to play for. We're only halfway through the season, so plenty to play for. It's Red Bull who lead the way on 124 points, with McLaren in second on 102. Only a point behind McLaren, actually, in third on Aston Martin on 101, with Mercedes in fourth on 92. Alfa Romeo in fifth on 79. AlphaTauri in sixth on 70. Alpine in seventh on 64. Ferrari in eighth on 58. Williams in ninth on 32. And Haas haven't scored any points so far this season. And it doesn't look like they're going to be scoring any points this season, judging by the attendance that we've currently got within the lobby. I can say we've only got 10 drivers here so far. Very disappointing, if I've got to be honest, from a TTML F1 standing. It is the top tier. We should be expecting full attendances pretty much every single week. It's a shame that drivers aren't attending. Obviously, people have got lives. I can really appreciate that. But now 11 drivers were beginning to filter in. I think everyone's been doing a little bit late practice. So literally, as I've said that, everyone's now beginning to load back into the lobby. And, of course, the standings, Harry Banks obviously leading the championship. Hazara there in third. He could try and really, really bring the fight to Harry Banks. Of course, he's recently joined IFR. He's going to be one of the drivers competing for IFR in tomorrow night's PSGL and VRT eSports Cup event, along with Kazizzle, actually, who's in for Shazoo. But hopefully it is going to be fascinating to see out on track what is going to be happening in terms of the on-track action. I know I'm waffling on a bit, but I'm trying to fill the time given that I'm by myself in the commentary box. And of course, actually, we come to Silverstone. Silverstone circuit, of course, 5.9 kilometres in length, 3.6 miles, awaiting the guys out on track. And of course, 18 turns with the two DRS zones, one down the Wellington Straight, one down the Hangar Straight in towards Stowe, and a track that is absolutely riddled with DRS trains, and we might be expecting the same, of course, here tonight, as we will get racing in a few minutes' time. We might be delayed about 5 minutes, possibly, given that the low attendance is currently on, but we will inform you, of course. I've got the Discord open, so I will see if anything is going on within the chat. It looks as if, actually, people are joining the lobby late. They're adding Funky Chicken, who's obviously our lobby host tonight, they're adding him very late on indeed. Got to get it done, I think, beforehand. And then we don't have this sort of delay, and we don't have the sort of delay to the stream as well, because I'm sure all of you who are tuning in are expecting some very good action, of course, out on track. And I will have a look then at the comment section and see how you guys are doing on this fabulous Thursday night. Of course, one night out from the infamous PSGL and VRT eSports Cup event. I really, really hope that this is going to be a fantastic event. You can tell with my nervous giggling, I'm absolutely bricking it tomorrow night, but hopefully it is going to be fantastic to see here in TTML, and indeed tomorrow night. It has a bit of a look in, actually, because we've got two drivers that are going to be driving in that event, which I'll come on to in just a second. Menno is supporting Noisy and York, which is good to see. Noisy as well, saying James speaking facts. I like to speak a few facts here on TTML, especially in F1. And Ripple also coming in and saying McLaren win today. Of course, let us know in the comment section who you guys are supporting tonight, who you guys want to see winning. And, of course, your top three in both qualifying and the race, which will be really fascinating. And hopefully it all sparks out to be a fantastic race. Every single time I've came here to Silverstone, but albeit virtually, it is an absolute brilliant, brilliant track to commentate over. We always get the action in the final 3 or 4 laps of the race, so that I really don't expect anything more. And actually, with the limited attendance that we've currently got within the lobby, it looks like we might be going with 13 drivers. It doesn't create that traffic out on track in terms of qualifying, and hopefully it'll create cleaner racing tonight with the lack of drivers that we've got here. All of these guys know what they're doing, and hopefully it makes out for a fantastic race. Fleddy there in the comment section as well, saying, you will smash it. I'm sure I will. Of course, I'm joined by Aidan Carter in the commentary box for that, otherwise known as Car Mentalist. And, of course, you can tune in for that same time as F4 and F5. And if you want to tune in for F4 and F5, you can do that as well. I have no quarrels if you're not going to tune in for tomorrow night's event. You can watch F4 and F5 instead. Storm and Conti are going to be taking you through F4 tomorrow, and of course it is Pariah and Buck taking you through F5 tomorrow, both at 8 PM UK time. As I say, we're a little bit delayed here in terms of everyone getting into the lobby, but we should be going very shortly indeed for the Silverstone Grand Prix and of course the British Grand Prix. First round, of course, in 1950, and actually around the World War II airfield, and actually takes in 2 counties. This track does. Of course, Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire are the 2 counties that it does take in. It is literally on the outskirts of Milton Keynes, on the outskirts of Tolster as well. And hopefully, as I say, when we get going, it is going to be fantastic to see how this is all going to unfold. And hopefully, and it looks like we might be getting going very soon indeed. Certainly drivers are readying up within the lobby. Kazizzle, I think, has left, though. So we might be just waiting on Kazizzle. We might be waiting a few more minutes until more drivers actually appear. It is, as I say, very, very disappointing that we've only got 12 drivers, 13, of course, including me, who's commentating remotely through Tom SharePlay, of course, and being our graphics man in the background. It is really disappointing, I've got to say, from an F1 perspective, how this is going to really unfold. Whether this has repercussions for further on in the season remains to be seen. But if you're an F1 driver, and if you haven't attended tonight, attend next week. Because honestly, you do not want to wear patience thin. You do not want to be missing every week's worth of action. Totally appreciate, as I say, drivers have lives. We do. I take commentary very seriously. I take time out of my life to prepare for commentary and to come here on my own accord tonight as well. So you're not only wasting everyone's time here in TTML, you're wasting the viewers' time as well. And that is all really I am going to say. Kazizzle has said there are 12 drivers, something we are going with 13 drivers apparently. So if Kazizzle gets back in, hopefully we are going to race him with 13 drivers. And remember, positions down to 19th place, pay points. I think the drivers here are going to be getting a minimum of 6 or 7 points tonight, which is more than what you would get in any other league that you might race in. I'm not getting frustrated. It is a little bit frustrating, to be honest. But if you really want to race, put the time in, put the effort in, come here, race, show up, and don't complain. Simple as that. It looks like we are getting going, though, with 12 drivers. So, with all that being said, let us get going then, and let us go into qualifying. This stream is sponsored by IGK TAS, telemetry analysis system powered by IGK. Good evening everyone and welcome along to the British Grand Prix. It is TTML Season 5, British Grand Prix, Round 5 of the Championship as we take in the Silverstone International Circuit for the British Grand Prix. Of course, 3 compounder tyres are available to the guys out on track. Those are the C3, C2 and C1 compounder tyres. Of course, the softs, mediums and the hards to you and me. And of course, it is only myself, James Head, taking you through the action tonight. Really hope that you're gonna enjoy this. And of course, we're around here at the Silverstone International Circuit. 18 turns around a 5.8 kilometre circuit with the 2 DRS zones, 1 down the Wellington Straight, 1 of course down the Hangar Straight as well. Quite a lot of elevation change, especially from the first sector transitioning into the second sector, and then of course into the third sector through Vale and Club at the lowest part of the circuit. And we're about to transition, of course, into qualifying very soon indeed. And obviously, I'm just seeing in the Discord, because it does seem to be wasting a little bit of time. If I've got to be honest, he has rejoined back, which is good. 13 drivers, though, is very disappointing from an F1 standard. I put a message in about 2 hours ago now. You should know better. You should know better. You should be attending week in, week out, providing your time to TTML. If you don't want to take it seriously, leave the league. Simple. We're going in towards qualifying, and it's a wet qualifying, which is absolutely brilliant. It is absolutely chucking it down here in Britain. Absolutely typical, I may add, as well, of the British conditions. And, of course, we will get the track map up to the right-hand side and show you the full extent of the track. And actually, we will get the detail up as well. Everyone, it seems, going to be going on a full wet compound of tyre. And, of course, these wet compound tyres can dispose of 75 litres of water per second. So this track could dry out quite late on. And don't be surprised if you see drivers doing multiple laps out on track, because that's what tends to happen around a track like Silverstone and indeed around other tracks as well. The first cars are beginning to come out on track. Thiago is one of the first in the Mercedes. Also coming out on track is Kazizel in the Ferrari. And Noisy looks like he's going to be the first man out on, well, the Dutchman, of course. And Noisy has had some good results recently in terms of how this has really banged about this season. Looking at him in the standings, he's 7th position, 52 points. He's only 23 points off the lead of the race. That's a race win, within a race win advantage, within the race. And Noisy has got to hope for a very good result. And I know he can perform better in the wet than he can in the dry. And I think these conditions might just excel and might just bring him to an absolute advantage out on track. Of course, the Dutchman will be hoping for a really good result. He's running down in towards Brooklands and then, of course, in towards Luffield. We have got the task system, by the way, set up. So if you do want to use the task commands in the chat, you can. And looking through, everyone has got their task system set up correctly, which is absolutely perfect. And it doesn't... and Funky Chicken, I think, actually is the one that hasn't, but everyone else has, which is fantastic. And that's what we'd like to see. Nobody probably going to be getting any penalties. Notieville's running through Cops, through turn 9, of course, where Verstappen and Hamilton came together earlier on in this season. And everyone might be just spinning out on these curves with there being full wet conditions. We're already 2 minutes into qualifying. You haven't missed anything if you are just tuning in. Wedge, by the way, is still in the pit lane. I don't think he's got a qualifying ban, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just quickly check the stewards' reports from last week and some of the position changes as well from last week. And Wedge hasn't got a qualifying ban, so he hasn't chosen to come out on track just yet. So Wedge hasn't got a qualifying ban, but he is brinking on the brink, really, with a 15-second time penalty and 15 seconds worth of penalty points from last week. However, Noisy running through the final corner, onto the Hamilton Straight we come, and now you will test my knowledge and see through Abbey, and then through Farm, and then, of course, into the village section of Turn 3, of course, where Raikkonen famously crashed into Hamilton on the brakes in towards Turn 3 in 2018. Through Turn 3 at the village, now through Turn 4, Wedge, I think, is in front of him out on track, so through the loop he now comes. And then through Aintree, of course, where they used to host the British Grand Prix prior to 1950, as they now run down the Wellington Straight, on the run down in towards Brooklands and Luffield. And we'll see what his first sector is like. Noisy. Don't expect blistering sector times, by the way, if you are tuning in for the first time to TTML. 31 flat through the first sector from Nosy, which is not too bad whatsoever. Funky Chicken and Fleddy have both invalidated on their laps as well. Air temperature is 20 degrees, by the way. Track temperature of 22 degrees, just to bring it up to date in terms of the conditions. However, Noisy now running down in towards Cops, the old turn one, of course, where Covenant and Hamilton famously went to 2008. Everything seems to involve that Lewis Hamilton guy around here at Silverstone, as Noisy just invalidates coming on the exit of Maggots and then through Beckett. We'll run him over this lap and see what it would have been. Of course, he can get another lap in as long as he doesn't invalidate the rest of this lap that he's currently on. And Noisy through the middle sector obviously hasn't picked up, but I can tell you that Kazizzle is up in the first sector. Kazizzle is through the middle sector, in fact, 40.2. Well, right on board then with the Ferrari out on tracks. He now comes through in towards the final couple of corners, through Stowe, and then in toward Vale and Club, of course being turned 16, 17 and 18 out on track. And that, as I say, looks like Funky Chicken maybe just ahead of him out on tracks now, because it'll comes through the final corner, and the Ferrari now running to the line with one eye maybe towards tomorrow night, because it'll to the line, 37.9, way off the times what will be seen in the drives. Of course, drivers will be sitting around the 24 mark in terms of the drives. Thiago's there in second as well, with a 140.5, and Harry Banks, in fact, comes into second there as well with a 138.7, but not too bad. Perpetuum now goes second, just trying to flick through. Jorg is coming through the final couple of corners, through Vale and into Club. 40.6 through the middle sectors. He's well up there with Simply Superman now going second. There's a yellow flag in sector 3, just a driver backing off their lap. Jorg goes fifth with a 38.8. But it seems to me as Hazard is now coming to the final couple of corners, seems to me currently, because there's a lad on top. He's well ahead of Simply Superman Perpetuum, but this is only the first laps. Drivers will be setting multiple laps you would expect on this set of wet compounded tyres, especially if the conditions are not going to improve throughout the session. Hazard goes 6th, by the way. The current P2 sitter in the driver's standings, he goes 7th at the minute. Isotopic just came in there as well and went second with a 38.2. Noisy is once again an invalid lap, now coming on the exit of Beckett once again. He really hates that section, I think, out on track. Now coming on the exit of Chapel, but Noisy was going quick, coming through the first and middle sectors there. We've got Wedge coming through the final couple of corners as well, in towards Stowe, and we're right on board with him as he now comes through into 16, 17, 18. You can see the rain curtains absolutely lashing down on the track, and Wedge obviously will be hoping for a really good result, of course, out on track. He now comes through the final couple of corners, runs the line. What's his lap time going to be? He goes 7th with a 39.7, but it's currently, because there's a lad on top, Isotopic second, Simply Superman in third. Noisy just on up on a lap break. FN has invalidating on his lap as well. There is a yellow flag in the middle sector, and that is Fleddy running wide. Fleddy's struggling. A recent signing, of course, to IFR. He used to be, actually, Division 4 driver, I believe, here in TTML. But Fleddy, of course, will be hoping for a valid lap time so he can get that in. We saw Harry Banks, by the way, in Perpetuum also go on laps, and Thiago was crashed coming out through turn 3. So just right on board, actually. I think Break FN is coming through that section out on track soon. Fleddy is just going through as well, along with Perpetuum. But Break FN is coming through the final couple of corners, and we'll see if, as long as that car is still there, where he has lost it on track. And typically, according to Codemasters, the car disappears. Absolutely brilliant. Break FN, though, has started up on a lap in the Red Bull. Currently 9 drivers have set time, but Thiago now down in 9th position as Kazizzle's left the session, and Isotopic goes quickest with a 37.7. So good up there by the McLaren. We're nearly 8 minutes through the qualifying session. Isotopic out in front, Kazizzle second, Harry Banks in third. And we'll see, actually, see if anybody's improving coming through the middle and the final sectors. Harry Banks 30.7 through the first sector, is improving on his first sector by about 600ths of a second as he now comes through Maggot and then towards Beckett. Very difficult, of course, in these heavy rain conditions, as proven there by Harry Banks dead on cue as he invalidates coming now out of Chapel and down in towards Stowe. But I stop again on top, Kazizzle second, Harry Banks in third. We'll flick on board with Jorg, 30.9 through the first sector. His first sector actually, compared to Harry Banks, way off as Noisy goes third with a 38.4, so good lap from him. The Dutchman getting the first valid lap in. Jorg is purple in the middle sector, not really backed up by the task system. He's actually a 10th down on Isotopic's middle sector, 40.1, and he's nearly 2 tenths down, in fact, on that as well. But Jorg now comes through Stowe on the run in toward Vale and Club, still with these heavy rain conditions out on track with 8 minutes gone in qualifying Ice top again on top Kazizel in second, but where is York going to go? I think he might go third with this lap. It's looking quite quick as he now comes through the final corner onto the Hamilton straight, comes to the line, and he does go third with 1:38.1, so not a bad lap there at all from York. Noisy, Harry Banks still yet to set lap times as well, yet to set improvements, I should say, on their laps, 38.4 and 38.5 respectively for the Aston Martin and the Red Bull indeed out on track. Perpetuum is also starting up on another lap. Noisy, by the way, is purple in the first sector, 30.6 as Isotopic goes quickest, and we see Wedge going off on the right-hand side of the track there, coming through Cops. Obviously got caught on the outside curves, we just flicked on board, but Noisy now coming through Maggots, then through Beckett's, on the exit now through Chapel, and again runs wide, and Noisy really not liking these conditions. Again, he's purple in the middle sector. Whether that is valid, though, 40.4 through the middle sector, 4/10 off from Isotopic's time. How that is a valid lap, I do not know, to be honest, but Noisy is coming through the final couple of corners. Nearly gets a bit of a slide on, actually, coming through the final couple of corners through Stoll there, but Isotopic out on top, Kazizel second, York in third as it stands. Right on board further down the field, Funky Chicken is off the track. He's now coming through Maggot and Beckett section, and Validate's actually cutting through that curb as Funky Chicken rejoins track just in behind. Brick FN has started again on a lap, 31.3 through the first sector as well from the Red Bull man. And of course, with these 13 drivers only being out on track, it's really good to see, actually, everyone's sector times, and it's a lot easier to follow from my perspective, especially being the only commentator here tonight. But it is Isotopic out on top at 37.4. He's 0.5 of a second ahead of Kazizel, but plenty of improvements can be found. Brick FN, however, is not going to be improving. He comes into the pit and absolutely speeds it into the pit lane. But Isotopic still out on top, and actually, through the middle sector, he's gone quickest than his middle sector, and actually he's back into the pit lane, so Isotopic is back in. Perpetuum, by the way, went third with 38 flat, so good lap time now from the German. York there in fourth, Noisy in fifth, Harry Banks in sixth. Simply Superman, I believe, is on a lap. He's coming now through Aintree towards the end of the first sector, now down the Wellington straight, of course, and this track does have 4 different layouts. Does Silverstone. Of course, you've got the Grand Prix circuit that we're on, as he's purple through the first sector, the Simply Superman, according to the game. And yeah, it's 30.6, so it's purple for the first sector compared to everyone. We've got the Grand Prix layout, we've got the international layout, we've got the national layout, and for the fourth layout, we've got the Stoll layout, which is the karting circuit out on track. And of course, that was famously put in to Gran Turismo 6 back in the day on the PS3 and then on the PS2. Yeah, I remember that. Isotopic's out on top, Kazizel in second, Perpetuum in third, Simply Superman and the Irishman now coming through Maggot, then through Beckett, and then in towards Chapel, and really takes it steadily, coming through the middle sector, but again, it's quick through the middle sector to 40.6, he's actually backed up quite a lot through that middle sector, and he seems to be so much more confident through that first sector. You saw it with the purple first sector. In the purple middle sector, however, 40.6, not there, and Noisy, by the way, came into the pit lane as well. He was on a 40.3 middle sector as well, so everyone starting to put on a fresh set of rubber. Looks as if, actually, the rain might be slightly easing off out on track, certainly on this camera angle. They're right on board with Simply Superman as he goes sixth with a 38.4. See what Fleddy's doing out on track. He's now coming through Luffield, and he's invalid, so the Williams is really struggling with the conditions so far. I think Fleddy is more of a dry track driver than a intermediate and a wet track driver, so these conditions might just be finding them out slightly, but the Williams in 13th currently out on track. It is Isotopic though out on top, because Kazizel second is back into the pit lane there, Perpetuum in third. Harry Banks is also on a lap, 30.8 through the first sector. He's only 300ths off his time through the first sector, but he has done 5 laps on this set of wet compound tyre. And apart from Kazizel, he's only done 1 lap currently. Everyone else has done multiple laps as predicted. Fleddy, of course, hasn't set a proper lap time in just yet, so that's really not valid from his perspective. But everyone else has set 2, 3, 4, 5 laps in the case of Harry Banks. And Harry now coming through. Recent signing, of course, to IFR, and he is going to be competing in the event tomorrow night. 40.3 through the middle sector from Harry Banks, which is a lot better than his middle sector previously. And he's going to be founded, I think, by now through Stowe. As now comes, really fights the car out of Stowe, and typically comes into the pit lane. How did I see that coming? I do not know. Harry Banks is into the pit lane, and Simply Superman is not up on his time coming through the middle sector, 40.9 through the middle sector from him, so he's about 7/8 of a second down on his lap time so far, and he is back into the pit lane as well. as I think Break FN is going to be the first man to set up on a lap. And we'll see what the Brit can do out on track. I did say he was a Dutchman. He's not a Dutchman, because he told me this last week in a Discord message, saying, you call me Dutch every single time that I commentate on you. And yes, that is true. But we've had it confirmed he is British, and he's now coming through Turn 1 and 2 at his home track, of course, through Silverstone, through Abbey and Farm, and then, of course, into the village section. 4.5 minutes to go in qualifying. If you are just tuning in, it is just myself, James Head, commentating you through the action. I might need a lovely menthol, I think, after this, for break coming out of the village, and then through Aintree, and then onto the Wellington Straight once again. Of course, that's where the national track and the international track intertwine with each other, with the Grand Prix track. There's the yellow flag in Sector 3. Briefly, I think it was one of the McLarens, maybe where your isotopic powering up before their lap. For break through the first sector, again, not too bad through the first sector. 31.4, he's way off in terms of the times that have been seen from isotopic. That was a 30.7, and the fastest first sector of everyone is simply Superman with a 30.6. So just to draw a bit of comparison, he's about 8 tenths off the quicker guys here out on track. But, actually, his times just came up. Oh no, Fleddy's just had a time, sorry, 39.2. I was wondering why he dropped down to 13. Fleddy's just had a time, 39.2. Better improvement there from Fleddy's up into 9th position. Break FN though, running down the straight, down the hangar straight this time. And it's a 40.8 through the middle sector. So again, in the middle sector, he's a little way off what we've seen so far this session. And with 3.5 minutes to go, you've really got to try and get your times in. Looks like it's going to be a full wet qualifying session as well here at Silverstone. Typical of the weather that we've been having as well, or certainly going to be having over the weekend here in Britain. And that comes out through Vale and then in towards Club Corner at the final corner through 18. There is a yellow flag in Sector 1, and that is a Ferrari of Kazizel that has spun off Break FN though to the line, and he goes 10th. Just in behind Fleddy, that was his first lap, so expect an improvement on his lap. Kazizel, by the way, has just started to get going, just in front of him out on track. He spun, coming through Abbey and Farm, and ended up, I think, into the gravel there as well. Let him through, actually does, because there's a little bit of isotopic out on top. Kazizel's second, Perpetuum in third at this moment in time. And we'll actually flick on board with Perpetuum, because as he set the fastest first sector out of everyone on a 30.4 through the first sector. Absolutely insane through the first sector from Perpetuum. 40.3 through the middle is not too bad, but if his first sector is anything to go by, he is improving here and could go ahead of Isotopic. So Perpetuum really going to lay it all down in these final couple of corners through Stowe, and then, as he picks up an invalidation. Literally, as I say, that Isotopic goes even quicker, 37.3. Kazizel is not on a lap, obviously, there in second. York, however, is not. He's coming through the village section as well as Noisy. Just right around on board, actually, with drivers that might be further on a lap. Funky Chicken coming through Luffield. There's a Ferrari, obviously, of Kazizel just ahead of him out on track. But Funky Chicken is the next one to come across the line on his lap as it stands. Isotopic, though, still out on top. And this is where we get into the nitty-gritty. This is where drivers have got to get multiple laps in to set on in this qualifying session. But currently, Isotopic holding the fort, holding the sway out in front. Very, very difficult time to beat, I think, out on track. He's about 7 tenths of a second ahead of Perpetuum. However, Funky Chicken responds in the middle sector. It's a purple middle sector from his standards, not a purple middle sector back, however, 40.5 through the middle sector compared to Isotopic's fastest middle sector of a 40 flat. Funky Chicken, though, running in towards the final couple of corners. Isotopic, though, out on top, Kazizel's second, Perpetuum in third. As he now comes through the final couple of corners, 38.9 is his current best, really slides it out, invalidates through the final corner, and picks up this the next lap invalidation. And that, my friend, is the end of qualifying for him. So Funky Chicken not going to be improving. Hazara, by the way, has just gone fourth as well, so he puts it up into the Vanguard, into fourth, 38.1 from him. York also is on a lap, coming through the final couple of corners, and we'll see what the Dutchman is going to do running to the line, and he does improve, 37.9, and he does improve just behind Kazizel by 0.006 of a second currently. And now we'll pick up with that man, Kazizel, as Isotopic goes even quicker. How's he managing this? 37.3 again from Isotopic, and if he's setting consistent lap times like this, goodness knows what it's going to be like in the race, especially if it is dry compound of tyres. But Kazizel now has only set one lap on this set of full wet conditions. Now coming through Corps. Oh, as he invalidates and he spins into the wall. High speed crash there from Kazizel. Just lost the rear end, lost his front wing completely. He's out of the session. His front wing is glitching in the map there of the track, which is very weird to see. Isotopic, though, out on top it is Kazizzle in second. We can only hope that York, Perpetuum and the likes in behind cannot improve. Freddy and Brick certainly won't be improving, and Kazizzle, obviously that yellow flag in sector 2 has now gone. Trying to ride on board with who's going to be next across the line. It's going to be Funky Chicken. Obviously, he's invalidated on his lap. Hazara is the next one and then behind him. And again, he looked like he flashed the purple middle sector. Simply Superman, however, is up in the first sector by 700ths of a second on Isotopic. So, watch out for him. On a lap, he's coming through Cops. But Hazara in towards the final couple of corners. As Funky Chicken ties into the pit in the Aston Martin's giving side-by-side action as well. But Hazara now running to the line. And he goes second. Good lap time by Hazara. Good improvement by 0.5 of a second. Hazara there goes second. But what is York doing? Obviously, I think Noisy is invalidated on his lap. So York now coming through the final couple of corners. Can he try and put this on pole position? 37.9 for him currently. And he goes second with a 37.5. Nobody can get close. Apart from maybe this man here and Perpetuum. Harry Banks, though, on a lap as Isotopic goes even quicker. 37.2. He really knows how to set lap times around here in the West. Certainly, if he's been doing them time trial, give him all the credit because Isotopic has absolutely flown this session. 0.3 ahead of York, who's his nearest rival. Harry Banks, though, through the final couple of corners. What can the Brit do? Really fights the car to the line, spins across the line, but he does go fourth. He did improve on that lap. Perpetuum is the only man then out on track that can actually try and interfere. And looking at his first and middle sectors, they're not that quick. And I think Perpetuum is not going to be getting pole position. He again fights the car out of the final corner, spins the car across the line, actually goes third with that lap as well. So really good lap from Perpetuum's perspective. Puts him into third. We'll confirm that lap time very soon indeed. And actually I can have a look on the task system, and there's a 137.6 from Perpetuum. But take a breath, like I'm doing now. Isotopic out on top by a good 0.3 of a second nearly. York there in second with Perpetuum in third. Hazara in fourth. Harry Banks there in fifth. But Simply Superman in sixth. Kazizzle, considering he only got one run, is seventh on a 37.9. Goodness knows what he could have done if his qualifying was just that little bit better. Wedged there in eighth position with Noisy in ninth. Funky Chicken rounding off the top 10. Fleddy in 11th. Break FN in 12th. And Tiago in 13th. But that is the end of qualifying. There's Isotopic out on top. York in second. Perpetuum in third. I'm going to catch my breath and I'll see you on the other side of this advertisement break. This stream is sponsored by IGK TAS, Telemetry Analysis System powered by IGK. Welcome back, everyone, to a gloriously sunny Silverstone. Comparison completely to qualifying, and of course we are back here for the British Grand Prix, round 5 of the championship, here in TTML F1, and hopefully we're going to see an absolute cream cracker of a race. 13 drivers, of course, doing battle out on track. Again, I will reiterate this point as I did before qualifying begun. Very disappointing from F1 standards. We should be expecting a much better attendance, expecting full grids every single race. And again, as I say, drivers have got lives. I really appreciate that. If you can't attend, I totally appreciate that. But if you haven't given any notification of absence, then really you're wasting everyone's time. And that's the shame of it, because we pay good money to use the task system, to use all the graphics that we've got in the background as well. And this money is going to go down the drain if we continue on a path like this. But as we now get going into the formation lap, 13 drivers about to do battle around, of course, the Silverstone International Circuit, 26 laps, and hopefully a very good race to be in prospect as well. And of course, we had that full wet condition qualifying session, and that now means everyone can start on a different choice of tyre, and they can start on a free choice of tyre as well, because obviously the top 10 didn't qualify in that set of wet conditions, because it is dry. They get to pick whatever choice of tyre they have, along with the 13 drivers that are the further down the field, like Fleddy, Break FN and Tiago. But looking through the strategies, actually, Isotopic, Simply Superman and Break FN are breaking the mould slightly. They think they know what they're doing on that sort of soft compounded tyres, and I would tend to agree, to be honest. If they can get the overcut and if they can get through the traffic early on in this race, there could be ones to watch on that sort of soft compounded tyre. Everyone else, of course, York, Perpetuum, Hazara, Harry Banks, Kazizzle, Wedge, Noisy, Funky Chicken, Fleddy and Tiago, all on that set of medium compounded tyres. But in terms of strategy, I've commentated one race around here. It was LOE back a couple of weeks ago around Britain, and it was an absolute cracker of a race. It was only a couple of rounds into the season as well. But if I draw a comparison from that, obviously that was on a Saturday, this is on a Thursday, the tyre compounds are going to be the same. So soft compounder tyres, expect them as, beautifully on cue, the pit stop strategy comes up. Lap 11 to 14, take that with a bit of pinch of salt to transition onto a one-stop strategy. Normally, especially on the last game, it was about lap 9, lap 10, where the drivers started to come in on that sort of soft compounder tyre, and one would imagine that they're going to be pitching in around that time period again. On a set of medium compounder tyres, you've got a real choice. You can either go set of soft compounder tyres with about 7 laps to go and try and make it 19 laps on a set of mediums, or you're going to be really, really pushed to try and get those mediums towards the end of this race. I would hand over to my co-commentator at this point for a top 3, so I'll have to predict it instead. My top 3 for tonight, I'm going to go Harry Banks for the win. I think he's looking good from 5th. Perpetuum there in 2nd, and if he can get a break, Kazizel in 3rd position. All the guys from the set of mediums I've chosen, interestingly as well. As the 5 red lights now come on here for round number 5 of the championship here at Silverstone. And it's lights out and away we go, and a fantastic start by Isotopic. Jorg's going to draw alongside him in towards Abby and actually gets a relatively slow start compared to Isotopic, who burns away on that sort of soft compounder tyres. Everyone's through Abbey Farm safely, and it's Isotopic who leads the way. Jorg in 2nd, Hazara there in 3rd. Looks the outside line actually on Perpetuum, and he's managed to get that done as well. He's actually up into 2nd, so Jorg now dropping down the field. Simply Superman as well is fighting. Kazizel's already up in position past Harry Banks. There's an Alpine gun spinning off. That's Perpetuum, and that goes one of my predictions early on. Funky Chicken as well, struggling at the back of the field. I think he's stayed out of trouble though, but it's Isotopic out in front. Coming through Brooklands for the first time. Hazara there in 2nd. Jorg in 3rd. A little bit of contact further down the field between Harry Banks and Kazizel. Might be a look towards tomorrow night, of course, in the PSG event, but Harry Banks comes out on top in that battle. They go 4th and 5th, and now on the run down towards Copster side by side, actually in behind between Noisy and Break FN, and they're nearly running side by side. The graphics looks like they're glitching slightly on my end. They were nowhere near each other. Kazizel on the back of Harry Banks though, coming in towards Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. Right on board with Kazizel coming through this section. He's got so much pace compared to Harry Banks. Taps the back end again. He's in a rush to try and get the move done, but again, like the driving standards of recent weeks, they've got to keep it clean out on track. And I think, apart from Perpetuum and Funky Chicken maybe getting caught incident, Perpetuum obviously spinning himself, everyone is quite clean through. Noisy down the inside of Stowe, tries to get the move done on Wedge. Break FN is joining in on this as well, and it could be 3 wide in towards Vale and Club, and Break FN tries to go all the way around the outside. The hand of rage there from the Red Bull, and Fleddy's in behind on this as well as they come now through the final couple of corners for the first lap. It's Isotopic who leads the way. Hazara in 2nd. Funky Chicken, by the way, has got damage to the car. He's into the pit lane early on. Noisy, however, right on the back of Wedge, coming through Abbey and Farm once again. Not close enough as Kazizel again, right on the back of Harry Banks, further up the field. But Isotopic leads the way. Hazara in 2nd, Jorg in 3rd, Harry Banks in 4th, Kazizel in 5th, Simply Superman in 2nd. Will take on board with the Alfa Romeo out on track. He's on that sort of soft compounder tyres, but crucially for him, he is in that DRS train, and that DRS train is very difficult. The further, as they actually had to put a snap of oversteer coming out of the Brooklands and into Lovefield. Simply Superman nearly lost the car then. He's lost a good 5/10 per second compared to where he was running down in towards Brooklands. Isotopic still leads the way, but Simply Superman is in that DRS train, and now because that gap was a second behind to Wedge, it's now 8/10 per second. He's dragging everyone along with him, so everyone is going to be engrossed in this big DRS train, and it is going to get very difficult for the guys further down the field to try and make the overtakes. But it's Isotopic who leads the way. Hazara in 2nd, Jorg in 3rd, Harry Banks there in 4th, Kazizel in 5th as they now run down, of course, the hanger straight in towards Stowe once again. Kazizel will be right on board with on the back of Harry Banks, not quite close enough just yet. Further down the field as well, Fleddy trying to get onto the back of Noisy, this for 9th and 10th position. And of course, unlike the 25 points that we normally award for the race win in F1, as Isotopic now sets the new fastest lap of the race with a 29.3. Every single driver, if they continue, will be scoring at least a minimum of 6 or 7 points out on track tonight. And why wouldn't you stay out on track? Because Cazzizzle looks the outside line on Harry Banks. He wants to try and make this move done sooner rather than later. Great run into the village. Now through the loop, down the inside on the Ferrari and the Red Bull. A little bit of contact, wheel-to-wheel banging between them both. And they give each other plenty of room as they now run down the Wellington straight. And it's Cazzizzle and Harry Banks. And they've both got DRS, of course, on York, who was really struggling to try and catch back up. But Cazzizzle down the inside, in towards Brooklands. Lovely moves. Nearly chops off a bit of front wing to boot. But Cazzizzle is through and he's into P4. And Simply Superman following suit as well. But Isotopic leads the way. Hazara in second, York in third. Cazzizzle now up to fourth. Lovely move that by Cazzizzle. I might have complained at him a little bit earlier on. But trust me, this guy's know what he's doing and he's very quick on this game on a dry set of tyres. So Cazzizzle might be one to watch in this race. And Isotopic and Hazara, of course, have broken the slipstream to York. Cazzizzle now looking to try and get 2 overtakes done on this lap. He's now right on the back of York. The Dutchman looks like the sitting duck. He is a sitting duck as Cazzizzle now looks the inside line of Stowe. Gets the move done into the braking zone. Lovely move. Cazzizzle's through and he's into P3. And this is the driving standards that we all wanted to see here in TTML F1 tonight. But it is only lap 4, and I will beg to differ if that comment that I've just made actually comes to fruition. But Isotopic leads the way. Hazara in second there. Cazzizzle, you could tell he was really pushing on that lap. He's used up a lot of ERS actually compared to the guys around him. Just looking at the ERS that has been used up. Perpetuum, by the way, has got 5% damage on his front right end plate. So that is why he's obviously off the back end to Tiago, obviously after that spin into the wall. And Fleddy as well has lost a lot of time just in behind on Tiago. Obviously made a mistake. I think they're running down in towards the village. But Fleddy on the back and Break FN as well on the back of Wedge, and Wedge now done like a red Leicester down the inside line. Break is through and he's into P7. And yes, that was a cheese pun. Wedge through. Wedge is trying to fight though on the outside line through Luffield, and then as he nearly snaps the car again. Really good car control by Wedge, the Norwegian, and behind on the Brit, and Noisy now on the back of this as well. The Dutchman will be hoping to try and get his elbows out like he did, of course, in Mexico all those seasons back in TTML against Gary, you remember. But totally different track, totally different tier, and totally different assist as well. But it's Isotopic leads the way. Hazara in second, Cazzizzle in third, and you can see Cazzizzle, just in terms of that interval timing, he is beginning to bring that gap down. It's 1.2 seconds now to Hazara, and he looks quicker than the top 2 guys at this point in the race. As Wedge now looks the inside line, and he might be getting the double Stilton now down the inside line. Wedge is nearly through into P7, but Break FN hangs on. But it comes to show Break hasn't got the pace, and the Brit is now beginning to hold a bit of a train. And actually, as a result, he's beginning to let Perpetuum catch back up as well. It's 4.7 seconds. It's a big gap currently. But the more that these guys engross in this DRS train, Perpetuum's got that clear out, and he is going to break into that gap slowly but surely. And again, with that 5% damage, not visible certainly on the camera angles, but he is certainly going to be feeling the effects of that 5% damage that he has got. As Noisy is right on the back of Wedge, and now Wedge is going to be under pressure. The papaya coloured car, I should say, under pressure from the Aston Martin, formerly known, of course, as Force India, and Noisy right on the back of Wedge. We're on lap 5 out of 26 already. This race seems to be flying by so far. No safety cars, no VSCs to report so far, which I'm very glad to tell you, as Isotopic leads the way. Hazara there in second, Cazzizzle in third. We look at Noisy though, right on the back of Wedge once again. Looks to the inside line towards Cops. Break FN just running wide there slightly. Brings Wedge into play, brings Noisy into play, and possibly Fleddy in this as well, as Harry Banks is all over the back of York. And Noisy picks up in the first 3-second time penalty at his favourite corner out on track. It is, of course, Maggots, where he picked up many invalidations on his qualifying laps. Wedge pulls away from Noisy. Fleddy looks on the back as Harry Banks makes the move down in towards Stowe, and actually York fights that with him as well. They go side by side in towards Vale and Club, and Harry Banks is back through into P4. He goes, gets the move done on the brakes. We just caught that a little bit late, but York is not one to try and lay down on a fight, and we know how York likes to fight, but Harry Banks is through, and he's into P4 out on track. And actually, looking at the ERS that everyone has got, Harry Banks has got considerably more ERS compared to everyone else out on track, as now Noisy is on the back of Wedge, and Wedge now looks to the outside line, goes Noisy, I should say, on the inside line, and Noisy is through, and he's into P8. Lovely moves being done here around Silverstone. Wedge, however, gets the better exit, and now the McLaren will be hoping to pick up that DRS running down the straight. However, he's got to watch one wing mirror in behind, because Fleddy right on the back. The Williams, I should say, right on the back, and Thiago, oh, as that Noisy goes spearing off the track, into a spin he goes, luckily not into the wall, coming through left field, went spearing off the track, the camera couldn't even keep up with the Noisy now through, down into P12 as a result of that spin, and it just seems to me as if he is just beginning to maybe wear his tyres out a little bit more than others, but as I was alluding to, Kazizel, by the way, is on the back of Hazara. As if for second position, Kazizel has got 2% less ERS at this stage compared to Hazara, but look at his natural pace. Kazizel on the back of Hazara, looks to the inside line, not going to get the move done there, and he's going to have to wait for now. York as well, on the back of Harry Banks, and two battles like this, the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari, and of course the Red Bull and the Aston Martin in behind, they get going into one big battle. It could really prove out as lap 7 out of 26 begins. Isotopic out in front, Hazara second, Kazizel in third. Really hope you're enjoying the action, by the way. Really hope you're keeping up with the action that we are providing for you out on track, as Kazizel looks on the back. Fleddy as well is under, Wedge I should say, is under sustained pressure from Fleddy. Fleddy gets a good run out through farm and then in toward the village section out on track. But again, Thiago, the Frenchman, just right there, of course, driving for Ecos. Ecos, of course, didn't qualify for the PSGL event tomorrow night, but Thiago has got a lot of pace, as Fleddy now is under pressure, is pressurising Wedge to the inside line. He goes in towards Brooklands. Is it late on the break from Fleddy? Looks to the inside line. Of course, Fleddy made his debut around here in the Wednesday League. I can't remember what it was. I think it was TTML Sim, something like that. Wedge and anyways, Fleddy side by side, running down through Woodcut, now down in towards Cobson. He's not going to think about going around the outside here, is he? The Williams will cut to the inside line. Wedge runs out. Perfect move for Fleddy. Looks to the inside line. Now on the outside line for Maggots and Beckett, and they're not going to go side by side through here. It's absolute wishful thinking, and there's contact between them both, and that was inevitable. Wedge nearly rejoins track as well in a dangerous manner, because Izzle is through Hazara as a result, and he's through into second, coming in towards Stowe, and now Wedge is under pressure from Thiago. But that, side by side, no matter how much room they gave there, it was always going to be a move that was going to be impossible. Fleddy pulled it off, all to be credit, but P8, and now Wedge is down in P10 as a result, and Wedge, just locking up the brakes, seems a little bit out of rhythm now, and he's got to try and keep that focus out on track. But leading the way, Isotopic, 2.2 seconds the gap. Currently, from Kazizel in second, Hazara in third, Harry Banks in fourth. But Kazizel now pulling away from Hazara. Can he bridge that gap to Isotopic? Because, of course, this is where the set of soft compound tyres are going to be going. And looking at the TAS system as well, in terms of the tyre wear out on track, Isotopic has got 32% on his tyres. That's on the front left. Kazizel on his tyres, 23%. So he's about 10% less at this stage compared to Isotopic. And once those tyres begin to get over 40% on that sort of softs, they really begin to struggle. And you can see Kazizel bringing Hazara along with him. Harry Banks is not too far along with Jorgen Simply Superman either. So if they can break into that toe of 1.5 seconds and to that gap of Hazara of 1.5 seconds, they could be with a chance of really making an impact in this race. But Isotopic, you can tell, his tyres just seem to be going off slightly. Kazizel just made a slight mistake there. It's now back out to 1.9 seconds. But Isotopic leading the way. Kazizel there in second. Looking further down the field, don't think we're going to see any moves further down. Thiago trying to chase down Fleddy on the run down in the hangar straight, but not going to be close enough down in towards Stowe. And Wedge, by the way, as a result of that contact, I should say, has picked up damage also. You can see him just understeering, coming through the right-hander there. He has got right side end plate damage, and it's 8% on that right side end plate damage. No floor damage to report after we went over that bump to cut the track as well. But Wedge struggling. You can maybe just see it. It's not visible on the camera angle, but he is missing a winglet on that right side end plate. And although it might not be visible to you as the viewer, it's certainly visible to me, who has got glasses on. If you've got glasses on, you might understand. Wedge down in P10, 2 seconds down behind Thiago. He's obviously dropping off. But we'll transition, of course, to the battle for P2 at the minute, because Izzle still leading that battle. He's beginning to bring the gap down as well, so we could be seeing a transition to that set of softs to a set of mediums. Funky Chicken, by the way, also came in to pit lane. Interestingly, went on a set of hard compounder tyre, and that set of hard compounder tyres is like literally driving on ice around at Silverstone. Remember the blue wall tyre a couple of years ago in the F1 games? It's literally like that to drive around in terms of the hard tyres, and they are not the tyre of choice. Obviously, Funky Chicken picked up damage, totally appreciate him, and he could go to the end of the race actually on that strategy, and he could land himself some good points later on if the race was to fall his way, and he'd be hoping, to be honest, for a safety car or at least a VSC at the very least. But Isotopic leading the way, and you can see as we run on board with Kazizzle now, coming through Vale and then towards Club. 1.5 seconds as we're about to embark onto lap 10, so about a third of the way through here at Silverstone. Isotopic leads the way, but Kazizzle, 1.3 seconds now off the back of Isotopic, coming through Avian Farm. You can see that gap just beginning to bridge down as we'll cut to the pit lane actually as Break FN is into the pits. The Break now decided to come in early, maybe for the undercut, maybe for a set of mediums. He might be listening to me as well. Lap 9 out of 26 that he's came in on, and Break now transitions to 16 laps on that set of medium compound tyres, 17 laps in fact, on that set of medium compound tyre, and he'll be hoping of course to try and get ahead of Funky Chicken, who is not even coming through Stowe, so Break is going to be miles ahead of Funky Chicken, and they may battle out for the wooden spoon out on track currently, but Break FN will be hoping he's putting him behind Simply Superman. Watch out for him later on in this race, because if he gets an undercut is quite potent around here. If he gets that undercut, it is going to be very potent, as actually Wedge nearly loses control of the car, and now Perpetuum looks the inside lane towards Cops. It could be a wishful thinking move from the German, it could be a brilliant move from the German, and it is a brilliant move from the German. Wedge made a mistake on the exit of Woodcut, and now Perpetuum is through, and he's into P9. Beautiful stuff down the inside line, clean as you like. Perpetuum is through, and he's into P10. And now that could bring Noisy into play as well. 2.2 seconds is the gap, but 2.2 seconds around here, with a 3-second time penalty that Noisy has got, is not a big gap. It is not a big gap, and it can easily be reached. Simply Superman, by the way, reacts to Break coming into the pit lane earlier on. It is around a 30-second pit stop around here at Silverstone, and somewhere just around the 30-second mark. And Simply Superman now into the pit lane. It's about 30 seconds from him coming into the pit lane, and now Break FN coming out of the pit lane, and he's got the undercut, and Simply Superman are a lap fresher mediums compared to him, where they're going to come out. He's now through Stowe. Simply Superman's car is further down, but it's a very long pit lane here at Silverstone, so watch out for this. I think he's going to be miles ahead, to be honest, compared to Break FN. Currently, as he reaches the end of the pit lane, Break FN's coming now through Club, and he's miles ahead, so Simply Superman has managed an overcut to perfection. He's gained a gap out, at least about 5 seconds to Break FN, and Simply Superman has done it beautifully, and he's through, and he's into 11th position, and can focus on recovering that car certainly up the field as he goes. Isotopic, by the way, leading the way, 1.3 seconds the gap. However, Kazizzle and Hazara are now beginning to close in, and we're beginning to see now the transition from a set of mediums. That's a lovely camera angle, by the way, as they come down the straight. I've never had that one before. Isotopic, his tyres are beginning to wear off. You can see actually, if you ride on board with him, that front left is the one that takes the hit. As he comes into the pit lane now, that front left takes the hit around here, and you can see just a faint blister as he gets onto the brakes there, running through the middle of the tyre, and that indicates that the tyres are getting worn. And Isotopic now into the pit lane from the lead of the race. Where is he going to come out? He's probably going to come out ahead of Simply Superman, out on track, but we have to wait and see where he is going to come out. The McLaren garage, of course, well up the pit lane here at Silverstone. He's onto a set of medium compound tyres. He is slightly fresher on that set of mediums compared to Simply Superman and to Break. And ignore the graphics, by the way, to the left-hand side, because they say there are no lap worth of tyres. That is true in Simply Superman's case. Break FN, though, has been already out on 1 lap on that set of mediums, so add another lap onto his time at the end of this race. But Isotopic there in 10th position, 9.1 seconds the gap as he comes out of the pit lane behind Noisy, because this is leading the way. Hazara in second, Harry Banks in third, with York in fourth. There is a yellow flag through sector 1, and it's Isotopic that has spun. Isotopic has spun. The race leader before coming into pit lane, has spun on the curb coming through turn 3 at Village. Drama here, and now Simply Superman is in the net lead of the race, now out of track. So the undercut is so potent around here. Simply Superman could be in the net lead of this race come the end of the race, which is brilliant, because Zizzle now, though, they've got to try and stretch out these tyres. All of these guys in the set of medium compound tyres have got to try and stretch them out, and it's 0.7 of a second the gap currently out on track. And hopefully we're going to be seeing some really good action as we continue on. We're going on to lap 13, so pretty much at the halfway stage out on track. Kazil leads the way, Hazara in second, Harry Banks in third. Kazil sets a new fastest lap. 1,000th of a flat 29. It's not too bad from Kazil's perspective, but it comes to show that those tyres are still working out on track. Jorg trying to pressurise Harry Banks as well. Third and fourth position, the Dutchman trying to get onto the back. He's just outside of DRS range this time around, I think, coming through. As I will quickly take a little bit of a breather. I'll get my drink very soon indeed. And of course I've been commentating the last half an hour without pretty much non-stop, because this all leads the way as our second, Harry Banks in third, York there in fourth. But look at Noisy, right on the back of Wedge. Both on 12-lap old medium compound tyres, and they're now under pressure as now Noisy. I thought he would have switched the inside line there to the outside now through Brooklands. Noisy sweeps around the outside line, a little bit of contact, but nothing major. Noisy is through, and he is into P8 position. Wedge now down in P9. A good move there by Noisy, and just to reiterate as well about the penalty situation as well, if you've seen black boxes, by the way, the share play ends in 3 minutes' time, so hopefully we'll be able to bring you the action in 3 minutes' time. However, those are the penalties before we cut to that. Fleddy, 3 seconds, Thiago on 3 seconds, and Noisy also on 3 seconds as well. Because this is leading the way, Hazara there in second, Harry Banks in third. 0.5 of a second though. The gap to the leaders as Thiago is on the back of Fleddy, now running through Cops. Because this is leading the way. Hazara there in second. We'll cut back to the action very shortly indeed. Out on track, live and exclusive, of course, to League Racing TV. And this is the nature of not having a co-commentator with you, so I could hand over to the co-commentator and see what's going on out on track. However, we transition, of course, with the share play ending, as now we'll get back into that and I can talk you through the rest of this race. Pretty much at the halfway stage as though, as I say, and it was because there's lad on top from Mazara in second, but the gap was only about 6 or 7 tenths of a second. And we'll now transition back in and we'll see who is right on board as Wedge is into the pit lane from P10, or down in P9 I think he was. He got overtaken briefly there by, I think it wasn't Simply Superman, it was the car ahead of Simply Superman, which was Noisy. Wedge now into the pit lane. He, interestingly, though, was on a set of soft compounded tyres. 12 laps on a set of softs can work, but they're going to be very worn towards the end of the race. They're going to be 60 to 70% worn, I would say, towards the end of the race. Because they're the fresher tyre, he can now bridge that gap in. And again, he could be one of the guys to watch out on track later on in this race. But because Kazil leading the way, Hazara in second, Harry Banks in third. It's still the same old currently. Harry Banks there in third as Kazil and Hazara still go out on track. These guys can manage as Harry Banks is in. Harry Banks comes into the pit lane. Very late decision within the white lines, I may add as well. So he's into the pit lane very late on indeed. But Harry Banks into the pit lane. Is Thiago going to follow through with Fleddy? No. Is Perpetuum going to come in? We'll see. No, Perpetuum's not coming in. Noisy, however, is. So Noisy is into the pit lane as well. And these guys are now performing that undercut. And Harry Banks on that sort of soft compounded tyre, out from third position, what can he do? Where is Isotopic, crucially, out on track is where I'm thinking. He's halfway down the pit lane now, and Isotopic's only coming through Stowe. Simply Superman is coming through Vale and Club. This is going to be close between them both. I think Harry Banks might have mastered the overcut. Harry Banks coming at the end of the pit lane now. Here comes Simply Superman in towards camera shot. He's nowhere to be seen. Harry Banks is ahead of Simply Superman, now within the net lead of the race potentially, and Harry Banks on that set of soft compounded tyre, he's around 2 seconds off Hazara before he came into that pit lane. Kazil now is 7 tenths ahead of Hazara. So if Harry Banks can find 2.5 seconds, pretty much in 2 laps I would say, he's guaranteed, I think, the win out on track, which would be fantastic from the Brits' perspective. But Kazil leads the way, lap 15 out of 26, Hazara there in second, Jorg in third. As I say, I really hope you are enjoying the action. Of course, if you are, like, comment, subscribe, tick that notification bell, of course, if you are new. Murple, by the way, said earlier on, is Kazil's into the pit lane from the lead of the race, so we'll see where this is going to bring him out in terms of Harry Banks. Fleddy, by the way, is under pressure from Thiago running in towards Stowe, and in fact, Jorg has also followed through as well. And Fleddy looks towards the pit lane, and that, Thiago, is surely going to be a slap on the wrist by the stewards, because that is cutting the white line on the pit lane entry. And that, my friend, might be a 5-second time penalty coming his way. And unfortunately for him as well, even worse, it was caught on stream. Hazara leads the way though. Fleddy in second, Kazil in third. But where is Kazizel going to come out? Harry Banks is coming through the final couple of corners. Kazizel's going to be miles ahead, potentially. Kazizel could be miles ahead of Harry Banks, and he is. So Kazizel, again, overcut seems to be working tonight. The guys in a set of mediums seem to be working. Now Harry Banks, though, is in a net second position. York has got out ahead of Simply Superman as well. And the main loser, because of his spin earlier on, was Isotopic. Isotopic has lost so many positions out on track compared to his normal track position. He's now down in P8. Obviously going to be P5 when Hazara, Fleddy and Perpetuum possibly come in. But in terms of the tyre wear, I'm really surprised that the overcut is actually working around a track like Silverstone. Obviously, I think it's because everyone's still on a fresh compound tyre and they can choose their own strategy, and that is why we're seeing a much more different race compared to what you would have seen if it was a dry qualifying session. And obviously, that has a distinct impact on what we're seeing tonight in terms of TTML F1. And I forgot to say, by the way, F2 and F3 are also live if you do want to tune in for that as well. But I really appreciate you coming here to keep me company, more importantly, in TTML F1. And we go on now onto lap 17 out of 26. Hazara leads the way. Fleddy is into the pit lane as well. Perpetuum, interestingly, keeps on going on that set of mediums, and Kazizel has just picked up a 3-second time penalty. Harry Banks is 3.3 seconds away, so luckily for Kazizel, he looks like he's got the pace at this time to try and make an impact. But Hazara, where is he going to come out on track? I think he's going to be side by side with Harry Banks here. Harry Banks in behind, getting the run through turn 1, through Abbey, through Farm. There is Hazara. Hazara is just ahead. It's the AlphaTauri. The sister car to the Red Bull is just ahead of the Red Bull itself. So Harry Banks now down in P4. Hazara there in P3 for now. The Simply Superman tries to get onto the back of Jorg. However, Jorg, 1.7 seconds. That fresh set of top that he's got on underneath him really beginning to work. Tiago and Fleddy, by the way, were pretty much side by side before they came into the pit lane. And they're pretty much around the same gap to each other as they were before they came into pit lane as well. It's about 0.3 of a second running down towards Brooklands, and Tiago just overextends coming through Brooklands and then in towards Luffield. And to be honest, he's taking my line through there. I've only done time trial laps around this track at Silverstone, but he's taking my line, and trust me when I say this, I am not racing out on track. I am not racing. You cannot see my name there on the left hand side, and to be honest, I would be out on lap 1 if I was racing in this race, because I do not have a clue about racing with just line only. I am a traction and ABS merchant. However, yellow flag in sector 2, and that is Wedge spinning around on the outside curb coming through Cops, and Funky Chicken is going to come past him. Funky Chicken is through and he's into 12th, and that's the sort of look that Funky Chicken needs. Wedge obviously spinning out on track, doing a fantastic job, I've got to say, to carry on, but Funky Chicken, now he's into P12. Wedge doesn't pick up a DRS train, although he actually does pick up a DRS train. Must have been behind Noisy before he spun, but Wedge has picked up a DRS train and behind on Funky Chicken. Funky Chicken currently in P12, Wedge there in P13. Transition though, 3rd and 4th currently. The final battle for the podium could well turn in actually to the battle for the win, because Kazizel's beginning to lose a little bit of time. It's 2.9 seconds and Hazara looks to be trying to bridge that gap to Kazizel. Whether it's a usage of EOS, whether it's anything else, whether it's the fresher tyres, remains to be seen. But Harry Banks is keeping up with them at this stage. And looking at the TAS system, Perpetuum obviously has got 59% front left tyre wear on that car. He's got to be fresher towards the end of the race. However, he's got to be nowhere towards the end of the race as well. So Perpetuum, I would say, come in this lap, limit your damage, to be honest, and then probably come out around Break FN, Fleddy, Tiago sort of area, and then possibly run on. But obviously he hasn't listened. He stays out at least another lap. Harry Banks again on the back of his aura coming through Stowe. Lap 19 out of 26 is about to begin. But Perpetuum leading the way. Kazizel in 2nd, Hazara in 3rd. Will continue to ride on board with Harry Banks, who's right on the back of Hazara. Fleddy was getting close enough to Break FN. Didn't launch a move though in towards Stowe, but Harry Banks on the back of Hazara, P3, P4, out on track. Perpetuum still leading the way, Kazizel in 2nd, Hazara in 3rd, and Fleddy will ride on board with him now as he closes in on the back of Break. So a good amount of EOS there down the straight, down the Hamilton straight, of course, as it's now known. Of the inside and towards Village. Get the move done. Wedge is closing in on Funky Chicken as well. Obviously, that fresh set of softs is really doing him justice out on track, and he's going to retake that P12 very soon indeed. However, Fleddy on the back of Break FN, and Break now under pressure from Fleddy, and this is going to be an easy move, possibly from Fleddy, all the way around the outside line. Very similar to what he did the last time I commentated on him around here. And he looks the outside line, gets a 3-second penalty for his pain, and now Thiago launches a one down the inside line as well. A little bit of contact. Don't think the stewards will look at that one. A little bit of a racing incident there between them both. However, Thiago just getting a little bit impatient, if I've got to be honest. And obviously, it's that sort of impatience that can cause crashes, that can cause stewards investigations, and that can cause penalties. And Break FN now has resulted in them staying in P9. But for how long? Because Thiago, obviously, on that fresh set of soft compounded tyre, will try and get a look in down and towards the hangar straight. Onto lap 20 we go now. Perfection still leading the way, Kazizel second, Hazara in third. As Break looks again to the inside line on Fleddy, doesn't get the move done, and Fleddy stays in P8, Break FN in P9 for now. As Perfection leads away. We're on board with the leader, in fact, the German out in front. There's Kazizel in second, and the gap now, Kazizel, after that 2.9 second advantage that he did have a few laps ago, it's now 3.5 seconds. So Kazizel really begins to bridge out that gap, and we saw him have the natural pace. He has got the natural pace full stop on this game, and that is why I think we're seeing him really excelling out on track. And I mean, Harry Banks has got a look in. If he can get through on Hazara, he can really get a look in here, and he can really try and make something of this race. Thiago now, though, on the back of Break FN, running halfway down the Wellington straight, looks to the inside line, and again, half committed to the move. I think he realises after a little bit of contact last lap around that Thiago is going to, again, launch it nearly down the inside line. A little bit of overcommitment there coming through Brooklands, I think, in the exit of the field now through World Cup. And Thiago currently in P10 for now, but Perfection leads the way. Kazizel second, Hazara in third. Race about to come to a crescendo. Funky Chicken has been overtaken by Wedge further down the field as my voice is beginning to go in, and I'm trying to desperately unwrap a menthol to try and keep me going in this commentary. Perfection are leading the way. It's Kazizel in second, it's Hazara in third. It is Harry Banks in fourth, and now here comes Thiago on the back of Break FN. Might be an easy move this, and it looks an easy move, and it is an easy move. And Thiago's through, and he is now into the number 9 out on track as Break FM will try and come back once again, but he doesn't, and Thiago's through and he's into P9. And if you can hear, by the way, a little bit of that crackling now coming through, it's me got a menthol in my mouth to try and keep my voice going with 5.5 laps to go here out on track at Silverstone, and actually it looks as if it's beginning to cloud over out on track, so there might be a threat of rain maybe toward the end of this race. But at this point in the race, I don't think it is really going to impact, to be honest, on how this race is going to unfold. Petrum is still out there, though, on that compound tyre that he started the race on. He still has to come into the pit lane. And again, if I was Petrum, I would have limited my losses quite early on, about lap 17, lap 18, come into pit lane, and then have a chance to try and run down noisy Break FN Thiago further down the field. Don't get it, to be honest, from Perpetuum, but he is still going to be finishing maybe in the top 10. We'll have to see when he decides to come into the pit lane. It has got considerably dark now out on track and really beginning to affect maybe the tyres, and this will favour the set of medium compounded tyres. Perpetuum now, however, is in. He realises that the tyres are going to be wrong, and blistering occurring massively on that front left tyre. You saw him locking up into the pit lane entry, and Perpetuum now into the pit lane. He will cut the thinner line running through the pit lane. On to lap 22 we go. Kazizel leads away. Hazara second. Harry Banks now in third. So we're pretty much now at the vanguard. Kazizel looks like he's running away with this race. And to remind you of the penalties as well, Kazizel's got 3 seconds worth of penalties. So has Thiago, Noisy and Wedge. And Fleddy has got 6 seconds worth of penalties out on track. He's dropping down the field. And Perpetuum is not going to be in the top 10 because he drops behind Noisy. And if he's not careful, he could even drop behind Wedge and Funky Chicken. I think he's going to be fine on that end, though. Harry Banks, on the back of Hazara, the IFR man, the newly signed IFR man, of course, from LR, which, of course, disbanded a few weeks ago, chasing down the FNR guy. Fancying that way you're drunk. Hazara second, Harry Banks in third, but Harry is trying to chase him down. We know what Harry Banks can do around this track. He's won here before in EML. And Harry Banks can hope for trying to get a really good result out on track. As over there in second, Jorg is beginning to bridge this gap as well. 2.2 seconds the gap. He looks like he's got more commitment coming through Maggots and Beckett's there. But again, Harry Banks is not close enough on the back of Azara to launch a move. And this race in the end, from being potentially a really good race in terms of a load of DRS trains, has turned a little bit flat, if I've got to be honest. But Harry Banks, on the back of Azara, if Kazizel picks up another penalty, this is for the race lead. If Kazizel doesn't, then this is for second position, and Hazara and Harry Banks know how to fight for second position as well. And, crucially, they're first and second in the championship as well. So if Hazara stays ahead of Harry Banks, I have a good feeling that he could take the provisional championship lead out on track if he stays where he is. And Harry Banks, I think, will know that out on track. He'll know the standings coming into tonight. And Harry now will be looking on the back of Hazara. Thiago picks up another penalty out on track, so that's 6 seconds now for him, along with Fleddy, who he is trying to chase down, actually, the Frenchman, out on track. But Harry, again, on the back of Azara, in towards Woodcut, not Woodcut, in towards Luffield, I should say. This is Woodcut coming up, now through Woodcut. And Harry, again, 0.5 of a second off the back of Hazara, because this is a little leading the way. Hazara there in second, Harry Banks in third, Jorg in fourth position. And I will say this now, given the state of my voice, and appreciating that I've done an hour and a half of solo commentary, there's going to be no interviews tonight, and I really hope you can appreciate that. Of course, we will hope that F2 and F3 will be doing interviews as well, I'm sure they will. But hopefully you will see a really good end to this race regardless. Lap 24 out of 26 about to begin. Kazizel leads the way. Is Harry going to launch this time around in towards Stowe? No, he's not. The AlphaTauri now under pressure. And Harry Banks will be channeling his inner queen, maybe. He may realise there's one vision as Hazara runs deep, and now Harry coming out through Vale and in towards Club as Thiago gets moved on Fleddy running down in towards Stowe, and actually Fleddy tries to battle that back on the mini-map on the right-hand side, but he's through. It's Thiago. Harry Banks, though, really pressurising Hazara. Hazara's on 2-lap fresher tyres, 3-lap fresher tyres, in fact, compared to Harry Banks. And it just looks like he's overwearing his tyres, and again, a little bit of a slide-on coming through Village in towards the loop. And this is probably Harry Banks' best chance to try and get an overtake done. But if I was him, I'd wait till the last lap, try and have a go down in towards Brooklands, and then wait his turn to try and get the move done. Perpetuum, by the way, new fastest lap of the race, a point extra going to him at this moment in time. He's in 11th. He's not going to chase down Nosey, but he could maybe get him on penalties if Nosey was to pick up more. I just topic it as well on the back of Simply Superman. Really doesn't mind from my subject's perspective. Of course, he spun in early on in this race. However, he's still P6. He's still P6, and without that spin, where could he have been? He lost 3 seconds, lads. He would have been ahead of Simply Superman, probably in a bit of no man's land, to be honest, out on track, if he was 3 seconds ahead of where he didn't spin. But he did spin, and that's why his topic's now down in 6th position. Harry Banks again, on the back of Hazara. Is this the move? Is this the moment for Harry Banks to try and launch it down the inside line? And again, just tricks Hazara into thinking he's going down the inside line, but Hazara, we know how good he is at defending. And if they're not careful, Jorg, as I said a couple of laps ago, is beginning to bridge that gap. And look at the gap. 1.5 seconds, 1.4. Gap's coming down. Jorg catching could bring a 3-way battle for the podiums for second and third. Penultimate lap of the race, though, here at Silverstone. Kazizel leads the way. He's pretty much home and holds. If he doesn't pick up another penalty, he's pretty much home and holds. And even if he does, he's 6 seconds ahead. So Kazizel leading the way. And we just saw there Harry Banks have a major mistake coming through Village in toward the loop. And 0.5 of a second into the gap. But again, he launches it not on the ERS just yet, Harry Banks. And he's going to wait to that final lap of the race to try and get the move done on the back of Hazara. And comparing tyre wear, Hazara's on 36%, Harry Banks is on 38%, and Harry's got 2 lap older tyres than Hazara. And Jorg's not too far off out of this as well. He's got 36% of tyres, so Harry Banks and Jorg seem that they've got better tyre wear than Hazara at this stage in the race. This is going to be crucial. There's going to be no safety car, no VSC. It's been a clean, fair fight. And probably the cleanest race of the season in terms of TTML F1 standards. But here is Harry Banks on the back of Hazara, coming on the exit of the chapel, and now looks to go and try and get the move done. It'll be the easiest move you'll see all night. Harry Banks absolutely waltzes past the AlphaTauri, and Harry Banks is through, and he's into second position. And now he's got to try and put the foot down in case Kazizel picks up another 3-second penalty on the final lap of this race. But Harry Banks is through, and he's into second. And watch out behind, because Simply Superman is through on Isotopic. They're fighting a think Isotopic trying to go around the outside there in towards Stowe. Trying to get the move done. A little bit of love tapping there between them both. Nothing more, nothing less. And Simply Superman stays in P5. But onto the final lap we go. Kazizzle, that man there, leads the way. Harry Banks in second. Hazara in third. Jorg in fourth. And Jorg has latched onto the back of this at the wrong opportunity. As Simply Superman has either just let through Isotopic or he's made a mistake. And now, Isotopic's back through and he's into P5, but Simply Superman's going to have the DRS, but look at the run he's got. He's got a really poor run, and Isotopic's going to be ahead, going down in towards Brooklands. But Kazizzle leads the way. Harry Banks in second, Hazara in third, Jorg in fourth position. I really hope you've enjoyed this race. It has been a really, really clean race in terms of driving standards. You can tell, 13 drivers around this track works. It just works. Kazizzle, round though. Through Chapel, and he's on his way to potentially a very good victory out on track. And of course, Kazizzle will land himself a big amount of points. Since joining Suzuki, he's really shined that thing out on track. Jorg trying to catch Hazara, by the way, down in towards Stowe. I don't think he's going to be close enough, given Hazara has got the run on Harry Banks. But now coming through the final couple of corners, I see Simply Superman and Isotopic are going to battle very soon. And Jorg gets side by side with Hazara, and Kazizzle is through and he wins the race. Harry Banks in second. Hazara, I think, has he got a puncture? No. He just lost it very late on coming through Stowe, and Jorg is through and he's into P3. And actually, Hazara's run out of fuel. Hazara's run out of fuel late on, and up goes his hopes of picking up a podium. Jorg gets the podium, and Isotopic and Simply Superman. Isotopic got back through on Simply Superman. He finishes in P5. Simply Superman P6. They come by 10th of a second. And look further down the field. Break FN. The Brit is through, and he's into 7th position as a result of penalties to Thiago, Noisy, and Fleddy. They picked up penalties. Break didn't, and Break finishes in 7th. Thiago in 8th, Noisy in 9th. Fleddy rounds off the top 10. Perpetuum there in 11th. Disappointing race from the championship protagonist. And as well, Jorg picked up damage on the final lap of the race as well. So obviously with a bit of contact, maybe through Velen towards Club. Have a look at that one. I didn't see it on the stream, probably because there was a lot going on with Kazizzle crossing the line. Drive of the day, though, awarded by the in-game fans. Kazizzle, I think, fair play to him. I predicted him for third. I didn't think he'd win this, but Kazizzle has won out on track. A very fair win as well. And the Ferrari, no matter how, what's the word I'm looking for? How strange the circumstances were at the start of qualifying. Leaving, didn't think he was going to even race. He's just shown everyone up and he's just won the race. So that is Kazizzle in an absolute nutshell right there. The Brit has won out on track here in TTML F1. Well done, of course, to Harry Banks. We try to chase him down to finish in second. And Jorg, of course, finishing in P3 with fresher tyres compared to the top two as well. But we'll run you through the full grid order now, and it is Kazizzle who took the race win. 7th on the grid up to first. I did say he was probably the quickest man out on track, and he was. Kazizzle wins. Harry Banks in second. Jorg is in third, with Azara in fourth. Isotopic in fifth. Simply Superman in sixth. Break FN in seventh. Thiago in eighth, with Noisy in ninth. Fleddy has rounded off the top 10, with Perpetuum in 11th. Funky Chicken in 12th. Wedge in 13th. I would say take a photo now, because you will never see a full grid finishing a race here at Silverstone, or in fact in TTML probably this season. Kazizzle has won, Harry Banks in second, Jorg in third. That race absolutely flew on by, but well done to the two Brits, and there's a British winner, of course, of the British Grand Prix. Round 5 of the championship does go to Kazizzle, and it is Kazizzle's first victory and first podium of the season as well. Harry Banks' fourth podium of the season, Jorg second, and Harry Banks, as a result of Azara running out of fuel very late on, Harry Banks holds that championship lead, and Harry Banks extends it further to, I think, around about 10, 12 points, something like that. And Harry Banks has obviously won, got a fourth podium out on track. Jorg picking up his second podium of the season as well. And that is it for TTML F1 tonight. Really hope you enjoyed the live stream, of course, out on track. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. Take that notification bell, of course, if you are new. And more action to come tomorrow night on League Racing TV. It is TTML F4 and F5. And yes, as you may have gathered, I'm not here tomorrow night for TTML F4. And it's going to be Storm and Conti taking you through the action for F4 tomorrow night. They're going to be your regular commentators going forward for F4 as well. And for F5, Pariah and Buck will take you through the action. Hopefully, they'll channel the F1 guys and have better driving standards like we did tonight, which was probably the cleanest race of the season I think I've seen from everyone. So well done to everyone out on track. Of course, well done to our top three of Kazizzle, Harry Banks and Jorg. I better go for a lie down though. My voice is absolutely knacked. Thank you so much for watching TTML F1 tonight, and until next time, goodbye.